Welcome to Toxic from Reddit, where real toxic relationship stories come to life. Here you'll hear true stories from people who experience toxic relationships from different perspectives. Partners dealing with cheating, manipulation, gaslighting, red flags, and all the emotional chaos that comes with loving someone who hurts you. Stories of betrayal, of finding strength to leave, of discovering the truth, of heartbreak, of healing, and the raw reality of toxic love. This is a real story, shared anonymously on Reddit. Some details have been changed to protect the identity of the people involved. Hi everyone, my name is Rebecca. I'm 29 years old, and I live in Seattle, Washington, and I need to tell you about the most humiliating and devastating experience that completely shattered my world and destroyed my relationship, which is that 3 weeks ago at our engagement party in front of all of our friends and family, my fiancé's mother stood up during the toasts and announced to everyone that my fiancé is still legally married to another woman, that he never finalized his divorce, that he's been lying to me about his marital status for our entire 3-year relationship, and that I'm essentially the other woman in his marriage. And now I'm dealing with the aftermath of this public humiliation, the betrayal of the man I thought I was going to marry, and the realization that my entire relationship has been built on lies and deception. I'm going to tell you this entire story from the beginning, because there's so much context and so many layers to this situation that you need to understand. My fiancé's name is Marcus. He's 33 years old, and we met 3 years ago at a friend's wedding where we were both guests. Marcus and I hit it off immediately, like we spent the entire wedding reception talking and dancing together, and by the end of the night, we had exchanged phone numbers and made plans to go on a date. Our first date was amazing. Like, we went to dinner at this beautiful Italian restaurant, and we talked for hours about everything: our families, our careers, our dreams, our past relationships. Marcus told me that he had been married before, that his marriage had ended badly, and that he had been divorced for about a year before we met. I appreciated Marcus's honesty about his past, and I didn't see his divorce as a red flag because he seemed to have processed it and moved on. Marcus told me that his ex-wife's name was Simone, that they had been married for 5 years, and that the marriage had ended because they had grown apart and wanted different things in life. Marcus said that the divorce had been difficult and messy, that there had been a lot of fighting and disagreements about how to divide their assets, but that it was finally over, and he was ready to move on with his life. Marcus said that he and Simone had no contact anymore, that they had both moved on, and that he was excited to start a new chapter with someone new. I was sympathetic to what Marcus had gone through, and I admired him for being so open about his past. Marcus and I continued dating, and our relationship progressed quickly. Like, within a few months, we were spending almost every day together. We had said "I love you," and we were talking about our future together. Marcus was everything I had ever wanted in a partner. Like, he was kind and attentive and romantic. He made me laugh, he supported my career, and he made me feel loved and valued. I fell deeply in love with Marcus, and I truly believed that he was the person I was going to spend the rest of my life with. About 6 months into our relationship, I moved into Marcus's apartment and we started building a life together. Everything seemed perfect. Like, we rarely fought. We had similar values and goals, and we were both committed to making our relationship work. Marcus never talked about Simone or his previous marriage. Like, he would occasionally mention something in passing about his past, but he never went into detail, and he never mentioned having any contact with Simone. I assumed that Marcus and Simone had completely cut ties after the divorce, and I never thought to question it. About a year into our relationship, I started thinking about marriage, and I would occasionally bring it up with Marcus to see how he felt about it. Marcus would say that he definitely wanted to get married again, that he wanted to marry me, but that he wanted to wait a little longer because his divorce had been so traumatic, and he wanted to make sure that we were really ready. I understood where Marcus was coming from, and I didn't want to push him, so I was patient, and I waited for Marcus to be ready. We continued building our life together. We traveled, we spent time with each other's families, and our relationship continued to grow stronger. About 2 years into our relationship, Marcus proposed to me, and it was the most romantic and beautiful proposal. Marcus took me to the place where we had our first date. He got down on one knee, and he asked me to marry him. I said yes immediately, and I was so happy and excited to start planning our wedding and our future together. After we got engaged, we started planning our wedding, and we decided that we wanted to have a long engagement so that we could save money and plan the perfect wedding. We set a date for about a year and a half after our engagement, and we started making plans and booking vendors. We also decided to have an engagement party to celebrate with our friends and family, and we planned a big party at a beautiful venue in Seattle. We invited about 100 people, including our families, our friends, and our colleagues, and we were so excited to celebrate this milestone with the people we loved. Now I need to tell you about Marcus's relationship with his mother, because this is important context for what happened. Marcus's mother's name is Patricia, and she's always been a difficult person. Like, she's very opinionated and controlling, and she's never been shy about sharing her opinions even when they're not wanted. From the beginning of my relationship with Marcus, Patricia made it clear that she didn't approve of me. Like, she would make passive-aggressive comments about my career, my appearance, my family, and basically everything about me. Marcus would always defend me and tell his mother to back off, but Patricia never stopped with the comments. I tried really hard to have a good relationship with Patricia. Like, I would invite her to lunch, I would ask her for advice about wedding planning, and I would try to include her in our lives. But Patricia was always cold and distant with me, and I got the sense that she just didn't like me and didn't want Marcus to be with me. Marcus would tell me not to take Patricia's behavior personally, that his mother was like that with everyone, and that she had also been difficult with Simone when Marcus was married to her. Marcus said that his mother was just overprotective and that she would eventually come around and accept me. I wanted to believe Marcus, but I also felt like there was something more to Patricia's dislike of me, like it seemed personal and intentional. But I tried not to let it bother me too much because Marcus and I were happy, and I didn't want to let his mother's negativity affect our relationship. As we were planning our engagement party, Patricia was being particularly difficult. Like, she was criticizing all of our choices, she was trying to take over the planning, and she was making demands about the guest list and the venue. Marcus and I tried to be diplomatic and include Patricia in the planning, but it was exhausting dealing with her constant criticism and interference. The day of our engagement party arrived, and I was so excited and happy. Like, I had spent weeks planning this party, I had bought a beautiful dress, and I was looking forward to celebrating with all of the people we loved. The party was at a beautiful venue overlooking the water, and we had hired a caterer, a DJ, and a photographer to capture the evening. The party started at 6 p.m. and guests started arriving, and everyone was having a great time. Like, people were mingling and eating and drinking, and the atmosphere was festive and joyful. Marcus and I were greeting guests and thanking people for coming, and I felt like the luckiest woman in the world. About an hour into the party, it was time for the toasts, and Marcus's best friend gave a really sweet and funny toast about our relationship and how happy he was for us. Then my maid of honor gave a toast about how much she loved us and how excited she was for our wedding. Then Patricia stood up and said that she wanted to say a few words, and Marcus and I looked at each other nervously because we weren't sure what Patricia was going to say. Patricia walked to the front of the room with a microphone, and she started talking about Marcus and about how proud she was of him. At first, Patricia's toast seemed normal, like she was talking about Marcus's childhood and about what a good son he was. But then Patricia's tone changed, and she said that she needed to share something important with everyone, something that Marcus had been hiding. And my heart started racing because I knew that whatever Patricia was about to say was going to be bad. Patricia said, and I quote, "I love my son very much, but I can't stand by and watch him make a huge mistake by marrying Rebecca when he's still legally married to his first wife, Simone." Marcus never finalized his divorce. He's been lying to Rebecca for their entire relationship, and Rebecca deserves to know the truth before she marries a man who is already married to someone else. The room went completely silent, like you could hear a pin drop, and everyone was staring at Patricia, and then at Marcus, and then at me. I felt like I was going to pass out, like I couldn't breathe, and I couldn't process what Patricia had just said. I looked at Marcus, and his face was white, and he looked like he was in shock. I said, "Marcus, what is she talking about? Is this true?" And Marcus just stood there not saying anything. Patricia continued talking, and she said that Marcus and Simone had separated 3 years ago, but that they had never actually filed for divorce. That Marcus had told everyone that he was divorced, but that he was actually still legally married. And that Marcus had been lying to me and to everyone else about his marital status. I felt like my entire world was collapsing. Like, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And I couldn't believe that Marcus had been lying to me about something so fundamental. I looked around the room, and everyone was staring at us, and I felt so humiliated and embarrassed. I turned to Marcus and I said, "Marcus, tell me this isn't true. Tell me that your mother is lying." And Marcus finally spoke, and he said, "Rebecca, I can explain. It's not what you think." But I didn't want to hear Marcus's explanations, not in front of 100 people. So I grabbed my purse and I ran out of the venue. I could hear Marcus calling after me, but I didn't stop. I just got in my car and I drove away. I went to my best friend Alicia's house and I was crying hysterically, and I told Alicia what had happened. Alicia was shocked and angry, and she said that she couldn't believe that Marcus had lied to me about something so important. Marcus called me over and over again that night, and he sent me dozens of text messages begging me to talk to him and let him explain. But I was too upset and too angry to talk to him, so I ignored his calls and messages. The next day, Marcus showed up at Alicia's house. and he begged me to talk to him. I finally agreed to hear what he had to say, and Marcus and I went for a drive so that we could talk privately. Marcus told me that what his mother had said was technically true, that he and Simone were still legally married, but that it wasn't as simple as his mother had made it sound. Marcus said that he and Simone had separated 3 years ago, right before Marcus and I met, and that they had both agreed that the marriage was over and that they were going to get divorced. Marcus said that he and Simone had hired lawyers and had started the divorce process, but that the process had been complicated because they had disagreements about how to divide their assets. Marcus said that the divorce process had dragged on for months, and that eventually he and Simone had just stopped communicating with each other and with their lawyers, and the divorce had never been finalized. Marcus said that in his mind, the marriage was over, that he and Simone had been separated for 3 years and had no contact with each other, and that he considered himself to be divorced even though the paperwork hadn't been finalized. I asked Marcus why he had told me that he was divorced when he was actually still legally married, and Marcus said that he didn't think it mattered because the marriage was over in every way except legally. Marcus said that he had been planning to finalize the divorce, but that he had been procrastinating because dealing with lawyers and paperwork was stressful, and he didn't want to think about his failed marriage. I asked Marcus why he had never told me the truth, and Marcus said that he was embarrassed and ashamed, and that he was afraid that if I knew he was still legally married, I wouldn't want to be with him. Marcus said that he had been planning to finalize the divorce before we got married, and that he was going to tell me about it, but that he kept putting it off. I was furious. I couldn't believe that Marcus had lied to me about something so important for our entire relationship. I said, Marcus, you lied to me for 3 years. You let me believe that you were divorced when you were actually still married. And you were planning to marry me while you were still legally married to someone else. How could you do this to me? Marcus started crying, and he said that he was sorry, that he had made a huge mistake, and that he loved me and didn't want to lose me. Marcus said that he would do whatever it took to make things right, that he would finalize the divorce immediately, and that he would be completely honest with me from now on. But I told Marcus that I didn't know if I could trust him anymore, that he had lied to me about something fundamental, and that I needed time to think about whether I wanted to continue our relationship. I went back to Alicia's house, and I stayed there for a few days while I tried to process everything that had happened. I was so angry and hurt and humiliated. Not only had Marcus lied to me, but his mother had exposed his lies in front of 100 people at our engagement party. And now everyone knew that my fiancé was still married to someone else. I started getting calls and messages from friends and family members who had been at the engagement party, and everyone wanted to know what was going on and if I was okay. I was so embarrassed, I didn't know what to tell people, and I didn't want to talk about it. I also started thinking about all of the implications of Marcus still being legally married. What if Marcus and Simone were still in contact? What if Marcus still had feelings for Simone? What if Marcus had been planning to go back to Simone this whole time? I started questioning everything about my relationship with Marcus, and I didn't know what to believe anymore. After a few days, I decided that I needed to get more information about Marcus's marriage to Simone, so I did some digging online. I found Simone on social media, and I looked at her profiles, and I saw that she was still using Marcus's last name, and that she had pictures of her and Marcus together on her profile from as recently as a year ago. I was shocked, why would Simone have recent pictures of her and Marcus together if they had been separated for 3 years and had no contact with each other? I started to wonder if Marcus had been lying to me about more than just his marital status, and if maybe he had been in contact with Simone during our relationship. I decided to reach out to Simone, so I sent her a message on social media, introducing myself and asking if we could talk. Simone responded right away, and she said that she would be happy to talk to me, and we arranged to meet for coffee. Meeting Simone was one of the most surreal experiences of my life. Here I was sitting across from my fiancé's wife, the woman who was still legally married to the man I was planning to marry. Simone was very nice and very open, and she told me her side of the story. Simone said that she and Marcus had been married for 5 years, and that their marriage had been rocky from the beginning. Simone said that Marcus was not good with commitment, that he was secretive and dishonest, and that she had caught him lying to her multiple times during their marriage. Simone said that she and Marcus had separated 3 years ago after a huge fight, and that Marcus had moved out of their house. Simone said that they had both agreed to get divorced, and that they had hired lawyers and started the process. But Simone said that Marcus had been difficult to work with during the divorce process, that he had been unresponsive to his lawyer, that he had missed court dates, and that he had refused to agree to the terms of the divorce settlement. Simone said that eventually her lawyer had told her that they couldn't move forward with the divorce unless Marcus cooperated, and that the divorce had stalled. Simone said that she had tried to reach out to Marcus multiple times over the past 3 years to try to finalize the divorce, but that Marcus had been avoiding her and not responding to her messages. Simone said that she had eventually given up trying to contact Marcus, and that she had just accepted that they were going to be legally married indefinitely. I asked Simone about the recent pictures of her and Marcus together on her social media, and Simone said that those pictures were from a time when she and Marcus had briefly tried to reconcile about a year ago. Simone said that Marcus had reached out to her and said that he missed her and wanted to try to work things out, and that they had met up a few times and had even talked about getting back together. I felt like I had been punched in the gut, like Marcus had been trying to reconcile with Simone a year ago, which was 2 years into our relationship, which meant that Marcus had been cheating on me, or at least considering cheating on me with his wife. I asked Simone what had happened with the reconciliation, and Simone said that after a few weeks, Marcus had changed his mind and said that he didn't think they should get back together, and that he had stopped contacting her again. Simone said that she had been hurt and confused by Marcus's behavior, but that she had moved on with her life. I asked Simone if she would be willing to finalize the divorce now, and Simone said that she would be happy to finalize the divorce, that she had been wanting to finalize it for years, and that she was ready to move on with her life. Simone said that she would contact her lawyer and get the process started again. I thanked Simone for being so honest with me, and I left the coffee shop feeling even more confused and betrayed than before. Not only had Marcus lied to me about being divorced, but he had also been in contact with Simone during our relationship, and he had even tried to reconcile with her. I confronted Marcus about what Simone had told me, and Marcus admitted that it was true, that he had reached out to Simone about a year ago because he was feeling confused about his feelings. Marcus said that he had been going through a difficult time, and that he had been questioning whether he had made the right decision by leaving Simone. Marcus said that he had met up with Simone a few times, but that he had quickly realized that he didn't want to be with her, and that he wanted to be with me. Marcus said that he had ended things with Simone, and that he had never cheated on me physically, that they had just talked. But I didn't believe Marcus. Like, he had already lied to me about so many things, and I didn't know what to believe anymore. I asked Marcus why he had never told me that he had been in contact with Simone, and Marcus said that he was ashamed and that he didn't want to upset me. I told Marcus that I was done with his lies and his excuses, and that I couldn't be in a relationship with someone who was so dishonest. I told Marcus that our engagement was off, and that I was moving out of his apartment. Marcus begged me not to leave. He said that he loved me and that he would do anything to make things right, but I told Marcus that it was too late, that he had destroyed my trust, and that I couldn't marry someone who had lied to me about something so fundamental. I moved out of Marcus's apartment and moved back in with my parents while I figured out what to do next. I've been trying to process everything that happened, and I've been going through all of the emotions, anger, sadness, betrayal, humiliation, and heartbreak. I've been thinking about the engagement party and about how humiliating it was to have Marcus's lies exposed in front of 100 people. I've been thinking about how Patricia must have known about Marcus's lies for a long time and how she chose to expose them in the most public and humiliating way possible. I've been thinking about why Patricia did what she did, and I've come to the conclusion that Patricia exposed Marcus's lies because she didn't want me to marry her son, and she thought that if she humiliated me publicly, I would leave Marcus. And honestly, her plan worked, because I did leave Marcus. But I've also been thinking about the fact that Patricia could have told me about Marcus's lies privately, that she could have pulled me aside and told me the truth in a kind and compassionate way. But instead, she chose to humiliate me in front of everyone. And I think that says a lot about what kind of person Patricia is. I've been thinking about Marcus, and about whether he ever really loved me, or whether our entire relationship was just a lie. I've been thinking about all of the times Marcus lied to me, about his marital status, about his contact with Simone, about his feelings, and I'm realizing that I never really knew the real Marcus. I've been thinking about Simone, and about how she was also a victim of Marcus's lies and manipulation. Simone thought that she was going to be able to finalize her divorce and move on with her life, but Marcus kept stringing her along and avoiding the divorce process. I've been going to therapy to help me process everything, and my therapist has been really helpful in helping me understand that what Marcus did was a form of emotional abuse, and that I'm a victim of his manipulation and deception. My therapist has explained that people who are chronically dishonest often have deep-seated issues with commitment and intimacy, and that they lie to avoid dealing with difficult emotions and situations. My therapist has also helped me understand that I'm grieving multiple losses right now. I'm grieving the loss of my relationship with Marcus, the loss of my engagement and my wedding plans, the loss of the future I thought I was going to have, and the loss of my trust in people. I've been thinking about my future and about whether I'll ever be able to trust someone again, and right now I can't imagine it. Marcus completely destroyed my ability to trust, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to open my heart to someone again. But I'm also grateful that I found out the truth before I married Marcus, because if I had married him while he was still legally married to Simone, our marriage wouldn't have been legal, and I would have been in an even worse situation. I've been thinking about the red flags that I missed in my relationship with Marcus, and there were so many. Like the fact that Marcus never talked about his divorce in detail, the fact that he was vague about his past, the fact that he was secretive about certain things. Those were all signs that something was wrong, and I should have paid more attention to them. I've been thinking about the fact that Marcus told me he was divorced when we first met, and I never thought to verify that information. I just took his word for it because I trusted him, and I didn't think that someone would lie about something so important. I've been thinking about other women who might be in similar situations, who might be dating someone who claims to be divorced but who is actually still legally married, and I want to tell them to verify that information, to ask to see the divorce decree, and to not just take someone's word for it. I want to tell them that if someone is vague about their past, or if they're secretive about certain things, those are red flags, and they should investigate further. I want to tell them that they deserve to be with someone who is honest and transparent, and that they shouldn't settle for someone who lies to them. I've been thinking about Marcus and Simone, and about whether they're going to finalize their divorce now, and honestly, I don't care. That's their problem to figure out, and I'm just glad that I'm not involved in it anymore. I've been thinking about Patricia, and about how she humiliated me at my engagement party, and I'm still angry about it. But I'm also grateful to Patricia in a weird way because if she hadn't exposed Marcus's lies, I might have married him and then found out the truth later, which would have been even worse. I've been thinking about moving forward with my life, and about rebuilding after this betrayal, and I'm actually feeling hopeful. Like, yes, I'm heartbroken and I'm angry, but I'm also relieved to be free from Marcus's lies and manipulation, and I'm excited about the possibility of finding someone who will treat me with honesty and respect. I've been spending time with my friends and family, and they've been incredibly supportive. Like, they've been there to listen when I need to talk, they've been helping me move on, and they've been reminding me that I deserve better than Marcus. I've been thinking about the lessons I've learned from this experience, and there are so many. I've learned that you should never assume that someone is telling you the truth about their past, and that you should verify important information like marital status. I've learned that if someone is vague or secretive about their past, that's a red flag, and you should investigate further. I've learned that some people are capable of lying about fundamental things for years, and that you can't always trust that someone is being honest with you just because they say they love you. And I've learned that some betrayals are unforgivable, and that it's okay to walk away from a relationship when someone has violated your trust in such a fundamental way. Thank you for reading my story, and if you've been through something similar, if you found out that your partner was still legally married to someone else, if you've been lied to about your partner's marital status, if you've been humiliated publicly by your partner's family, or if you've had to call off an engagement because of lies and betrayal, I would love to hear how you dealt with it and where you are now. I'm still in the early stages of healing, still processing the betrayal and the humiliation, still figuring out how to move forward, but I'm hopeful that I'll come out of this stronger and that I'll find someone who will love me honestly and faithfully.